Good fucking morning, y'all. Here's a no bullshit guide to installing Arch Linux. The first thing you want to do is create a bootable USB drive. I'm going to be using Rufus, but you can use something like Etcher. I've used this before. I just prefer Rufus. It feels a lot better to me. So you want to scroll down, go to the links, click the first one, and download that. And now we need to actually download the Arch Linux ISO. And so we go over to Arch Linux /downloads. We're going to go over to where you're from. I'm from the United States. So I'm just going to click on this first one. And you could download this one or this one. Click this one. I think the difference between these two are one of them might be stable, but I mean, they're the same file size, so who knows. So now that we got that downloaded, we're going to open Rufus. And once you have that open, you want to select, and then find where you downloaded your ISO, and you want to open it, and leave these all as default. Click start, and I've actually recently had some problems with writing an ISO and how to do in here. This is for Gentoo, but I'm gonna do ISO by default. Just click fucking yes on all of these. And right now it's flashing it. All right, it is now done. So now what you have to do is reboot your computer, and you want to smash all of the function keys and the delete key to boot into your BIOS, and try to boot into the USB itself. Before I go through the actual installation itself, I do want to go over the installation guide that Arch Linux provides. I will be following this step by step. So if you have a question, look it up on Google or look it up here in the installation guide. The Arch Linux forums is extremely good for getting issues resolved with installation and every single problem you will have afterwards. All right, so when you actually boot into the USB, you should see this screen right here. This indicates that it did work, and if you don't see the screen and you keep booting into Windows, you're going to have to change your boot order to boot into the USB. So right now it's going through the boot sequence, and we're just going to wait for this to finish so we can actually boot into it. All right, so now when we're actually here, we want to connect to the internet or make sure we are connected. So I'm going to ping one time to 1.1, which is like Cloudflare server. It's just shorter to write. You can also do Google's DNS, and it looks like we are connected to the internet. I'm going to just make sure that DNS is working as well, and it is. So now that we can actually, sorry, if you don't see this, and you're on a laptop with like a wireless interface, you can use IWCTL, and this will kind of bring up like a pseudo shell, so you can type in commands for all of your networking needs. So you could do device list, and you could see your wireless devices. If you do see something here and you want to connect via Wi-Fi, if it's powered off, you could do device name, whatever you see on the left column right there for the name, and you could do set tech property powered on, and that will power on the interface. Then you can do that's all we really need to do inside of here. You could type in exit and get back to this root at Arch ISO. So once you get the device name, you could do iwctl tac tac passphrase. If your wireless access point does require a passphrase, you would need this. So you could do that station, input the name of that device you powered on earlier, uh, and connect to whatever your Wi-Fi name is. So it could be my Wi-Fi dot 5 gigahertz or tech 5 gigahertz. So yeah, that should get you. Um, that should be able to for let. That should be able to get you connected, and yeah. So once we are connected to the internet, we are going to want to format our drive. And so we do this with fdisk, so fdisk tech L, and these can get pretty long. So if it is spitting out a whole bunch of output, you can pipe it into less. It's the key above the enter key. Um, Pipe into less, use J and K to move up and down, and Q to exit. But when you have found the disk that you want to install Arch Linux on, you're going to do fdisk. Well, before I do that, this is destructive. This will remove all data on the drive, but you can wipe the file system first. But beware, you will lose some data if you run this. Um, but yeah, I have nothing on this drive, and I want to install Arch Linux on it. So when I'm ready to do that, I'll do fdisk/dev/vda, and now I can get a help menu. So this is kind of like another pseudo shell, if you will, to just edit this drive. So the first thing we want to do is to create a new partition table, and we are going to create a new partition. I don't know if you caught that. My mic keeps turning off. I'm going to be doing that quite a lot. So if I just stop talking, it's either because I'm thinking for a really long time or turning on and off my mic. All right. So once we've created a new, uh, sorry, I haven't created anything yet. Fuck. So I press N to create a new partition. So I want this partition to be 1. The first sector is going to be default. So I'm going to do enter. And this one's not going to be default, so I'm going to have to input something here. So I am going to do 300 megabytes for the first partition, and this will be the boot partition, or the EFI partition. So I'm going to do 300 megabytes. And you might not get this pop up, but if you do, just hit yes. So yeah, so that is our boot partition created. The next thing we want to do is uh, T for type, list all, and I want the first one, which is EFI systems. So I'm going to press Q and then hit 1. And now we have configured that first partition. Let's create a new one, default 2, default first sector. And this is going to be our swap, so it's going to be 8 gigabytes. And I've heard that you can use like half your RAM. The recommended is at least 4 gigabytes. So, but you can. It's always safe to do half your RAM. So if it's 32 gigabytes, if you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, I would do 16 gigs. So yeah, I'm gonna do 8 gigabytes here and remove the signature. The next thing. So we are gonna create a. Oh, we're gonna set the type first. Default 2. List all. Find Linux swap. It is at 19. So we're gonna set it to 19. Okay, so the second partition, for the last partition, we're gonna do 3, default for sector, and we're gonna leave this default, and this default's towards the last sector of the drive. And we're gonna remove the signature. And P for print to see all the changes you made, and once you're happy with it, you can press W for write. Alright, so it has said that the partition table has been altered, so we can view that by doing fdisk tag L. Alright, so once we actually created all the partitions, we know format them now. So we're going to do mkfs dot fat 32, and for the first partition, this is the EFI one, this is the boot, and then we are going to do MK swap, and for the second one, and then MKFS ext, not exit, ext4 slash dev slash VDA3. There we go. So now we could do swap on for that second one. This is going to be a swap partition. And now we can actually mount the root partition. So let's see. Dev is VDA. VDA3 to /MNT. So we're going to mount that. And we're also going to mount the boot partition, but we need to make the directory first. So we're going to do boot and then EFI. So fantastic. MNT is clear. So I'm going to make directory techb parents boot /MVI. Let's check it out. CD boot. There we go. So that is all configured. So we are going to mount /dev VDA1 to /MNT boot EFI. There we go. So now if I do a recursive search on /MNT, there you go, /mount /boot has EFI on it. Nice. Clear. Okay. Next thing we want to do is packstrap tag I /mnt base Linux and Linux firmware. Now you don't need this Linux and Linux firmware, but it is recommended. So you get it's for most common hardware. I definitely recommend installing this. So yeah, enter default. 1 is fine. 1 is fine. And yes. Throw in another Zen. Speedrun Arch Linux installation. Alright, so now once that has all been installed, we want to gen fs tab, tag capital U, tag P /MNT, and put that into mount etc fs tab. And yeah, I'm going to verify this. So I'm going to cat MNT. There should be 3 entries in here. And there is. I have my boot, swap, and my root partition. So that looks all good. So now we are going to root into the environment. And now once I do this, I have now entered my disk. So my top level will be the disk itself. So yeah, so now I can use all the binaries in here. So we're gonna actually set our time zone. So go like this, press tab a few times, you can see all of the things you want to input. I am gonna do New York. Excuse me. We're gonna link that over towards Etsy local time. Nice. I'm gonna verify that. Local time. Looks good. So now we're gonna update the hardware clock. Nice. And we're gonna do Pacman. So this is all gonna be boot manager and other like needed packages. So Grub is gonna be the boot manager, EFI boot manager, DOS FS tools, OS Tech Prober, tools, Linux headers, and you can do Linux uh, LTS and Linux LTS um, headers. However, I'm not going to be using this. LTS is long-term support, I believe, and um, that's for stability. Um, actually uneducated on that one, so cannot fully tell you about that. Okay, it is finished. Um, so now we want to set our locale, and I don't think there's Vim or Nano on the system yet. Uh, Probably one of the first things we should do. So I am going to install Vim. It'll just make our life easier. I'm gonna Vim /sc /locale.gen. I'm gonna enter slash. I'm gonna do search for en underscore us dot utfa. So this is the line I want. I'm going to press I, insert mode, control C, colon W, right, well, right quit. And then, yeah, so after I did that, edit that file. I'm going to do locale gen. It's going to generate that. And now we can actually install Grub. So we're going to install Grub right here. It's very important you type this all correctly. Don't want to mess all this up. 64 EFI bootloader ID equals grub underscore UFI UFI tech recheck. There you go. Installation finished. So now we're gonna set up the locale for Grub. So we're gonna do user share locale n \@ quote and then lc underscore messages grub.mo, and we are, is my mic on? It is. Okay. Just gotta make sure my fucking mic just turns off randomly. We're gonna copy that to boot grub locale and .mo. There we go. And you know what? I'm gonna verify that it does in fact actually exist, and it does. Uh, nice, it turned off again. Okay, so now we're gonna make our config. So mkconfig tag o boot grub and grub.cfg. Yeah, looks good. There you go. So you now did that, and if you ever want to edit your grub config, do vim etc default grub, and this is where you can edit your default or your grub config. The only thing I really changed in here is this right here. I set this to 1920 by 1080, and that's so that I get full resolution um, on my monitors. I'm gonna keep this right. Actually, I'll leave it on auto. Another thing I keep in here or edit in here is disable this so that it runs this. Uncomment it, sorry. So it runs this. This is mainly for dual booting. Um, I am starting to move away from running Windows on bare metal, but yeah, that's another thing I disable. I'm gonna leave it commented out though. So yeah, and every time you edit it, you have to make the config again. But yeah, so we should be able to actually boot into Arch Linux now. So we're gonna umount tech A and reboot. shit. Give me a second. Boot sequence all off. I have to edit this real quick. Let's see. Boot options. Vario. Shut down. Off. There we go. Hit play. And now you should, upon reboot, get this screen right here. And you can click right here, or enter, not click. And we have booted into Arch Linux. And we did not set a root password, so we cannot log in. Root. Nice. So in this situation, like all fucking installs of this crazy shit, I would actually uh, boot in the live ISO again, and you know what? I'll even show it. It's impossible to actually speedrun this shit because mistakes are bound to happen. So I'm gonna. No, that's not what I want. Force off. There you go. So yeah, just like any Arch Linux install, there's always problems. The live USB will be your friend when it comes to this. Something as simple as not setting a root password can actually fuck you up. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through this real quick. Um, uh, hello, hello, root /mnt. There you go. So now I'm gonna do passwd, set a password. I'm just gonna put password, and we're gonna exit umount tech a, and then reboot it once again. Well, I should have did power off, but fuck it. That boot up. Enter. And we can log in now. There you go. So now you can do Pacman, Tech S, you can do NeoFetch. I actually don't know if Fast Fetch is in the package manager. Oh, it is. Nice. Oh, fantastic. Networking is not available. Welcome to Arch Linux.